let's continue on the second example. So now, the second example is to find the equation of a line that is perpendicular to y equals to 2x minus 8 and passes through 4 and negative 8. So in this case, remember, to find any equation of a line, we are using the point gradient formula. Point gradient formula, we have a point in here already, so that is given, 4 and negative 8. What about gradient? Now we don't know the gradient yet because it is perpendicular, not parallel. Perpendicular to the given line means the gradient of these two lines multiplied together equals to negative 1. So let's say the gradient of the second question, oops, mistake, multiplied by the given gradient is 2. Therefore, that is negative 1. That means the gradient of the line we're looking for is negative a half. Okay. Now, in this case, therefore, we're using the point gradient formula again. Y minus y1, which is the y coordinates of the given point, that equals to m, which is negative a half, multiplied by x minus x1. Okay. So, therefore, y plus 8 equals to negative half x plus 2. Now, if you do want to change it into general form, that's okay, but I'll just leave it as gradient intercept form. In other words, the gradient is negative a half, and that is the y-intercept again. Oops, yep. And if you do want to change it into general form, oops, I'm doing minus 12, multiply both sides by 2, and that's what should give you this. If you do want to change it to general form, or the question asks us to change it to general form. Okay, do remember, point gradient formula, you only need two things, the point and the gradient. Normally the point is given, but the gradient is not. So you have to use your skill or whatever you have learned before based on the given information to find the gradient. That's a common approach. Okay, so for example, find the equation of the line that passes through. Let's separate in two questions. Point A is 1, 5, and 4, negative 1. B, let's say passing through point C, or let's say negative 1 and 9. And D is, let's say, negative 2 and negative 4. Okay, all right, so let's take a look at these two individual questions. Do remember, point gradient formula, we need the point and we need the gradient. In here, for part A, we have put both point A and B. Now, here's a tricky thing. If the question is given 2 points, you can use either point. Any one of them will work. Which one you like, try to get the easier one. Normally, I pick the one with the smaller number or smaller amount of negative numbers. So, as you know, I hate negative so much. So I'll basically just use point A. This is the point. However, do we know the gradient in this case? We actually don't. We don't know what the gradient is, but we know the line passes through the 2 points. So in other words, you're going to use your knowledge about gradient to find the gradient of AB. So in this case, I normally just write subscript, gradient of AB equals to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That will give you negative 6 over 3, that is negative 2. So the gradient of the line is negative 2. And therefore, by using the point gradient formula, y minus 5 would be equals to negative 2 multiplied by x minus 1. Here is y1, that is x1, that is your gradient. So therefore, y minus 5 equals to negative 2x plus 2. And most likely we want to leave it as point or gradient intercept form because we can see the gradient and intercept easily. Okay? And to sketch that, you basically just let x equals to 0 or y equals 0, plot it on the point. Oh, speaking of which, how to plot this, how to sketch this line the quickest way. So when, well, this is not asked by this question, I just feel like we actually need to know it. When x equals to 0, y equals to 7, so obviously that is your y-intercept, we already know that. And when y equals to 0, so 0 equals to negative 2x plus 7, 2x equals to 7, x equals to 7 on 2, 3.5. So 7 on 2. So therefore, you just join the 2 points together and you're done. So in other words, this is the y-intercept and this is the x-intercept. Again, this is not asked by the question, but you should know what. Okay, that's part A. Now part B, on the other hand, we have negative 1 and 9, negative 4 and negative 2 and negative 4. Again, you can use either point if you like for the point gradient formula. Or I'll just use the one with less positive, less negative, which is point C. And this time you also need to find the gradient of CD, which is the line passes through these 2 points. Okay, so y2 minus y1 over y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, negative 2 minus negative 1. Oops, sorry. Okay, so therefore it's negative 13 over negative 2 plus 1, that's negative 1, that is 13. So therefore the gradient is 13. Now, therefore, we can again use the point gradient formula. Y minus y1 equals to m times x minus x1. Do you remember? This is the one and only one way to find an equation of the line. Find the equation of a line. Okay? Any other form is just a variation of this. Any other form is just a variation of this. So y minus 9 equals to 13x plus 13. Well, just minus second plus. Therefore, y equals to 13x plus 22. Okay? If you want to sketch the line, just using the method we did before, find out both the x and y intercept, and then you're done. Okay? Now, Cambridge does suggest another way, or another way to write they call the two-intercept form, which I never ever recommend. That means, again, this is the only way you try to find a line. If they're given another form, just do it in this way. So, let's take out an example. Remember, this is a universal way to find the equation of a line. So, given A is 6 and 0, B is 0 and 9. In other words, this point lies on the x-axis, this point lies on the y-axis. That's fine in general form. Now this time the question asks us in general form. So whenever you read a question like this, make sure you underline that and you don't just leave it as gradient intercept form. Otherwise you'll lose mark because you haven't actually answered the question. The equation of part A, the line AB, part B. Okay, the line L1 perpendicular to AB through A, or C, the line L2 perpendicular to AB through B. Okay, so we're going to use the given information in here to find out the equation of the line first. But first of all, let me remind you, do not use any other method. Do not use any other method, but just point gradient formula. So therefore, the first one, part A. Point gradient formula. Again, you can either use point A or point B. It really doesn't matter in this case. Well, I normally choose the point that on the x-axis because y minus 0. It doesn't really matter. So the point is 6 and 0. The gradient on the other hand, remember, just use y minus y1 over x minus x1. They'll give you 9 on negative 6. That is negative 3 on 2. Oops. Okay. So in this case, now the gradient is negative 3 over 2. And therefore, using point gradient formula, y minus y1 equals to m times x minus x1. So therefore, we have y equals to negative 3 on 2x plus 2 on 3 times that, 2, that is, I don't know, 3, 9. Okay, then the question asks us to put in general form for each of these questions. So therefore, we need multiply both sides by 2. So 2y equals to negative 3x plus 18. And again, we put everything in on one side. That makes the x positive. Minus 18 equals to 0. Put it there for you. That's the equation we're looking for. Part B. The line L1 that is perpendicular to AB through A. Now, we want to find out the gradient, or we want to find out the equation of the line that passes through A, but it's perpendicular to AB. So it passes through point A, so therefore we're using point A. Remember, we're looking for the equation of a line, point gradient formula. So what is the gradient of the line we're looking for? The gradient of the line we're looking for can be obtained by using the information perpendicular. Remember, perpendicular means m1 multiplied by the given gradient. Well, you can call it m2 if you want, which is negative 1. And make m1 the subject. Therefore, negative 1 divided by negative 3 on 2, you get 2 on 3. So therefore, using point gradient formula again, y minus 0 equals to m times x minus 6. And we have y equals to 2 on 3x multiplied minus 4. Again, the question requires us to write it into general form. Multiply both sides by 3. And therefore, put everything on one side. This case, I'll put it on the right-hand side because x is positive on the right-hand side. If you want to do one more line, it's all okay. Therefore, 2x minus 3y minus 12 equals to 0. Okay. Right. Part C. This time, we are looking for a line that is perpendicular to AB again, but passes through B. Well, the same thing happened. No, but in this case, the point gradient formula, we're just using B, which is 0 and 9. And the gradient in this case is the same as before because it's both L1 and L2 are perpendicular to AB, which means those two are parallel. And the gradient here is just 2 on 3, exactly the same as part B. So therefore, we are using point gradient formula again. So therefore, y minus y1 equals to m times x minus x1. Therefore, we have y minus 9 equals to 2 on 3x. And y equals to 2 on 3x plus 9. Again, we need general form. Multiply both sides by 3. 27. And 0 equals to 2x minus 3y plus 27. Therefore, the final answer is 2x minus 3y plus 27 equals to 0. Okay. All right. So we haven't finished yet, unfortunately. We will get back to this for the next video. Stay tuned for the next episode.